You're very welcome on to the Matchbook NFL podcast. We're at week 14. Hard to believe. There's still no good teams, but we will get to that in just a second. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by Judah and Brad. Brad, I might as well segue straight into that. It's a common narrative, but sometimes common narratives are because it's true. Are there any good teams outside maybe the Rams? Are they even that good compared to other years? Where do you stand at the moment looking at the Super Bowl?
Definitely no good teams in the AFC. The Rams are good. The Rams are good.
Like last week, I thought was a bit of a wake up call for them there.
The Rams. Well, the adjusted scores in that game were pretty interesting. They won by 10%. By 10 points. Like they had like a 60% plus success rate, and Carolina was like 38%. I think, or maybe it wasn't that big. But it was a huge difference. The Rams were clearly the better team by the fundamentals, but turnovers, was a pick six in there, and then Carolina, I think 3 for 3 on fourth down with 2 touchdowns in there, like 2 40-yard touchdowns. So they just won every single high variance play. So maybe a wake up call, but I think the Rams are still good. I know to me it's just this. I think it's week 16, Rams Seahawks, and I feel like the winner of that game, whoever gets the 1 seed, is, they're sure they're going to be odds on to be in the Super Bowl, aren't they? So I feel like those two they feel like the best teams to me.
Yeah, Judah, like looking at the Matchbook Super Bowl market, 6.8 the Rams, double figures every other team, and you've got, just the top of my head, in almost 10 teams in that between 10 and 20.0. It's crazy. Have we had a season like this where you have one slight foul and then you got maybe 6, 7, 8, 9 teams in and around the same? This is just based purely on the Super Bowl. I know they're not quite rated as the best teams in the league, for example.
Yeah, no, it's been a while. I think like we had it maybe, I want to say it's 2021. The Titans were the number 1 team, and we're like home dogs, top of the standings. Like I think we're just seeing that kind of at scale, and like if we played out kind of the playoff picture, or at least the playoff picture could be, like we would see that kind of home dogs all across the AFC, certainly, even perhaps in the NFC as well. Yeah, the Rams are like the number 1 team until they're not. You want to talk about a game that they got lucky winning. Like Seattle destroyed them the first time around. Darnold threw 4 picks. It took an insane punt and a missed field goal for Seattle to not win that game. But they play again next Thursday. I think that once again can kind of flip everything on its head. But how many times throughout the season have we? I think this kind of gets to the core point. Has there been sort of a new number 1 team, so to speak, atop the power ratings? And the Rams have been there maybe the last couple of weeks, but that can just as easily go as it came. So, we're in a very interesting time, and certainly the way seeding interacts, right? Like getting the bye is really, really important. The Super Bowl winner is wide open, at least the widest open I can probably ever remember. In week 14 of an NFL season.
And me, but anything you can put it down to, these things are so nuanced. There's probably 7, 8, 9, 10 different reasons. Sometimes there's no reason at all, just pure randomness. Is there any one thing why there seems to be teams are getting a lot closer together? Not necessarily better, but then it's all relative, obviously,
Yeah, so I think it, like, randomness is the name of the game here, but also it does matter. There are fewer drives per game, and if there are fewer drives per game, that means there's more variance in the sense of better teams have less time, so to speak, to express themselves as the better team, and you're just going to get more condensed and random outcomes. Like the average drives per game is down like 1.5 from like 2007. So that's one answer. I don't think that's like accounting for the entirety of the variance, so to speak, but that definitely does play into this somewhat.
Yeah, Brad, have you had any thoughts yourself? Because you're obviously looking at these markets every week. There's something must come to mind when you say, why is it like this? Again, outside of randomness, obviously, which is definitely a huge factor.
Yeah, definitely some randomness. Definitely, as Judah says, fewer plays, fewer drives, just adds more volatility, variance. And then the last one maybe is this idea that like schemes have improved. Like there's more easy completions. It's no longer like take a 7-step drop, try and fling it 18 yards downfield. And so it's like much easier completions, which again just kind of brings everyone together. Like skill is less important than it used to be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, gotcha. And final thing, we did want to quickly mention serious numbers on particularly the Cowboys-Chiefs game, Judah, Thanksgiving. I think 57 average, might be wrong on that, but 70 plus million at peak. Up, or that's a thumbs up or enough.
57
yes.
million.
57 million average, but that's 71 to peak. We're seeing a boom in NFL viewers in America. Again, it's hard for me to quantify this as someone living way outside the American bubble, but like I watch NFL every week regardless, but it's bringing in that bandwagon support, which we would call it in Ireland.
Yeah, you got to look at the revealed preference, especially in America. Americans love football. You can talk all you want about the quibbling with the product, this or that. Like, Americans watch football at a scale that is hard to kind of fathom. If you look at like the most watched TV events in America every year, like the top 20 is basically Sunday Night Football and the NFL playoffs. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it could even be further. And Brad, you put a lot of that down to maybe the last couple of years, deregulation a little bit in the US, sports legalized in most states, so therefore a lot more people betting and a lot more people with skin in the game. Again, hard to quantify exactly what it is.
Yeah, I've just heard that for a long time, that the reason the NFL suddenly boomed so much was fantasy football, and then obviously sports betting legalized in America in some states in 2018, and then that's gone crazy. It's like by far the biggest betting market in the world, and then more recently like prediction markets this year, so now you can pretty much bet in 50 states. So I would guess some impact from that, because skin in the game makes you watch the games, as I'm sure us and everyone listening can confirm.
Yeah, 100% agree on that. Prediction markets, yeah, big boomer. They're definitely a small factor too. Hadn't thought of that. Before we get going, if you can take 2 seconds, hit that like button. Subscribe completely for free on our YouTube channel, not just NFL, horse racing, football, the likes, and insights.matchball.com. You get a full recap of the guys' picks ahead of Sunday picks. So we do have a Thursday night football, a lot of primetime games as well picked this week. Brad, we'll start with you with the Texans at the Chiefs. You had success fading the Chiefs. Has that flipped the Mahomes factor all of a sudden, that we're getting plus money on these teams that are in a good spot, that you can see the Chiefs winning this game by 3, for example, and your bet on the Texans plus 3.5 can still win?
Yeah, so last week we spoke about the Chiefs defense, where it was being graded, I can't remember exactly what it was like the 7th best defense in the NFL, and then I gave some of the stats. They're like 24th best in non-garbage time success rate. They're just fairly middling. And so that's still true, but let's start when the Chiefs have the ball. So they're down 2 offensive linemen at least. Left tackle is out. I think he might be going on IR. The right guard, like an all-pro, Trey Smith, he's out. The right tackle, who is still there, is the 72nd PFF graded tackle out of 80 tackles. Now, obviously, they're going up against the Houston D-line, which is maybe the best 4-man pass rush in the NFL. So that's bad. You've got 3 massive weak spots. That's a huge mismatch for Houston. Now, on the outside, another thing we spoke about last week is the Chiefs splits man versus zone, where if they play against zone, they are best in the NFL. If they play against man, they're mid-pack. They were 16th in EPA. And Houston, generally, they do play zone, but I also feel that in this matchup, they will say, we are happy to take you one-on-one, man-on-man here. And again, I'm not sure the Chiefs are A, going to be able to block long enough to get anyone open, and B, going to be able to get open again against this corner. Like Derek Stingley was making a lot of headlines this week. Another game where he allowed 0 yards in coverage, 0 weaknesses in the cornerback trio. So I do not see KC moving the ball that effectively. Maybe Mahomes running is going to be their sort of most efficient route here. And then when Houston has the ball, so we spoke a little bit about just a minute ago that the Chiefs defense is mid. It's just mid-packing everything, really. It doesn't do anything particularly well. And Houston, so since week 10, they've reshuffled their offensive line. I'm sure most people know for the first 10 games of the year, it was a bottom 3 offensive line, and it just ruined everything they tried to do. They just could not block. But since then, they reshuffled it. They got a new right tackle in there. They shifted someone out to the left tackle. They moved it all around. And since then, they are 15th in success rate. They're 15th in EPA. They're 11th in rushing success rate. And a lot of this is with Davis Mills. Now, obviously, Stroud came back last week, played well, plus 0.15 EPA. And he got better throughout the game. Like watching him early, he was bailing. He almost couldn't believe how well he was being protected. If you watch that game early, he's bailing from clean pockets. He can't believe that his line actually works now. So I also feel like Houston should have success moving the ball here. So yeah, plus 3.5, I think is just a half point too high, and those are valuable half points. So Houston for me.
Yeah, Judah, if you had to pick a side on this one against the Chiefs, what would you be on agreement with Brad there?
I would, yeah, I guess. I mean, this is not a game I want to bet. This is still, a Chiefs team at home, market implying maybe a couple point difference. And I mean, the Chiefs took the ball out of Mahomes' hands a whole bunch on Thanksgiving, but even then, obviously the Texans are a better defense. He still was under pressure a ton, and Mahomes has an unbelievable ability to create, to mitigate that more than any other quarterback. But yes, this is not a great matchup defensively, and I still have some questions about the Texans, and I think they've also been popped up a bit by some weak defenses. Still some holes. But yeah, if I had to choose a side, I would still go Texans. This is for many of the reasons that Brad just mentioned.
Okay, I would say overall an endorsement of Brad's selection there. That's the first official bet. Texans plus 3.5 at around 1.9. Judah, the Saints plus 8.5. Charlie Smith, from an Irish point of view, I have to give props. We do have a lot of Irish listeners there. Kicked 56-yard field goal and also recovered an onside kick, or kicked the ball that recovered an onside kick. Dubious, but we will still take it. We ended up in Ireland watching a lot of this game, the Saints game last week. Then I normally would anyway. And my conclusion to that is they're absolutely brutal still. Why are we, I guess everything has a price, but why are we taking the points here at the Bucks? Plus 8.5.
Yeah. I mean, the Bucks just have not been the same team. Baker kind of dealt with an injury earlier in the season, like week 7 or so. He has not been the same quarterback. If you look at kind of any efficiency metric, his EPA is bottom 5, his PFF grade's not far behind. It's a team that on offense has really kind of stymied. Did not do that much to impress last week in a game. I thought the Cardinals really could have and maybe even should have won. And then on the defensive side, over the last month of the season, this is a defense that is allowing the second highest yards per dropback, second highest yards per attempt. Their 4th worst EPA. Their perfect coverage rate is in the bottom 5. They're not generating quick pressure. That is just a massive number for a team that has just simply not been playing to the caliber of how they were the first 6 weeks of the season. And if you kind of use the full season's worth of data, it might paint a very different picture, I think, than the current reality of the Tampa Bay team. And that's an offense that has not been particularly good, and a defense that's been really bad. And I think Tyler Shuck has done a pretty good job, all things considered, moving the ball decently well. This is just not a team, I think, that deserves to be 8.5 point favorites basically against anyone, and certainly not against at least an offense that is not, I don't know, Shedeur Sanders in his first game that really can't move the ball, or the Raiders right now. It's a capable NFL offense. 8.5, I think, is just too many points.
Okay, Brad, I touched on with the question there, everything has its price. Are you liking that plus 8.5 Saints if you had to pick a side in Judah's case there?
Yeah, no strong view on the game. I'd say the final score of the weekend's game, the Bucks were a lucky winner. They gave up a 62% success rate to the Arizona Cardinals, which does not speak well of their defense. So yeah, that'd be one data point pointing towards Judah's side.
Okay, so we'll lock that in. Second official bet, Saints plus 8.5 around 1.94. InsideStarMatch.com, as I said, for full recap. Brad, it seems every second week maybe you're fading the Chargers in some capacity. I live with an Eagles fan. We've been building up to this Monday Night Football for weeks and weeks. Seems like a massive game. The Chargers were quite good, I thought, against the Raiders when they had to be, but they're still obviously the same question marks of that O-line.
Yes, and yeah, that's I guess that's what we'll start. The the Raiders aren't really going to threaten you. They're not. This Eagles D line is still elite. They've had a bad couple of weeks. I mean, they got walloped last week, which we'll get to the Bears later. But yeah, the Chargers just cannot do that. This is still a bottom 3 offensive line, and the Eagles is still probably a top 5 defensive line. And that's a good place to start. Then obviously you have Justin Herbert. Now he's had hand surgery, and it's the wrong hand. It's a bit like Aaron Rodgers last week. But again, I don't feel there's enough of a discount. I've spoken about this before, being applied to that. He can't go under center, so everything's out shotgun, which kind of messes your run game up anyway. And I don't think there's going to be a run game because the offensive line is at such a mismatch. he's not going to want to get hit again. Anyone who watched Steelers last week, like Rodgers was terrified of getting hit, and Herbert is known as very tough. Like he played through broken ribs before, but he was really bad when he played through broken ribs. He was not effective at all, and I think it's sort of bravery for bravery's sake, and it's detrimental to the team. It's like, look how I want to be out there, but okay, you're worse than the backup. So I kind of feel that there's a decent chance of that happening. There is a good chance he is not himself here, that he has a destroyed hand. He can't go under center. The offensive line is going to get destroyed. And, that's just a terrible combination for me. And then Eagles offense, obviously, been a mess, probably still be poor with no Lane Johnson. That's big. But it's a difference going from playing outdoors in 20-mile-an-hour winds to going indoors in a dome. So I feel they can do enough to get us to cover this first half. Now, this is a nice price, -2.5, 2.1. This is a Matchbook Bet Builder as of about 20 minutes ago. And going first half rather than full game, just because West Coast teams do have the advantage in night games in the second half specifically. So we're trying to get rid of that.
Okay, those bet builders, some of those very good prices you can get at matchbook.com, and just check out the bet builders on the matches there for those extra markets. Judah, it's that age-old debate. I mean, Brad sort of sums it up well there. You have a quarterback, he's injured there. He missed a few of the plays actually during the game, came in halfway through a drive, which was a bit weird. But how do you quantify that? You can't really. You can just best guesstimate as best you can,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sold he's playing.
Yeah.
Limits are pretty low across the board. I think reflecting the injury uncertainty there. But it's different. I think when it's a wide receiver ankle injury as opposed to a quarterback left hand injury, and like obviously there are degrees to which this matters. But we also have at least a small sample of how he played, because he didn't not break his hand last week. I mean, like post surgery, maybe something, but I think it probably matters a little bit less for a quarterback than it does wide receiver. But this gets into precisely the points that make me not want to bet it, which is I'd like to try and win on the market and understanding how good a player or team is based on the current information I have, and properly weighing that data, not trying to kind of guess like how performant is this quarterback going to be based on injuries. I don't have any information. It's not something that I like to bet.
Okay, two different approaches. Brad thinks he can steal a little bit of a march on that market. So recording this Thursday morning, Eagles -2.5 on the first half there. And guys, sort of last couple of weeks, been a lot of disagreement on the pod. I've found listening back to them, they've been very good. It's getting me sort of thinking both ways. But I'm not going to enjoy the next 5 minutes or so. I think you guys are well and truly on the same page here. So Judah, start with you. Bears +7. Sometimes if it looks like a big number, and given their record and their performance last week, sometimes if it looks a good number, maybe it is a good number. That's the way I would see it, just first glance seeing +7 around 1.9.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the Bears line against the Eagles too at this point last week, and they obviously won outright. Yeah, I think this kind of comes down to three main factors here. The first is like this is a Chicago rushing offense. I highlighted this last week. That has had such an unbelievably high floor of success. And they're doing it against everyone. They did it against an Eagles run defense that was kind of top 3, I think, by anyone's account. And they ran for Monangai and DeAndre Swift each having 100-yard games. I think that they are going to be able to run the ball very effectively. And when you combine that with, shockingly, Caleb Williams not taking any sacks this year, you are just putting yourself ahead of the chains so often and setting up yourself for such favorable situations that I think the Bears offense has such a high degree of success. And then you look at the Packers defense, and like they have no pass rush outside of Micah Parsons. And obviously Micah Parsons is really, really good. But this is a defense that has kind of been really beaten up by any like backup quarterback style. Like JJ McCarthy's popping up a bunch of the numbers for the Packers. And if you kind of like go game by game, this is a team that has really struggled on pass defense. And I think that the market is kind of accounting for a Packers team that has some great numbers, and they like surely have beaten up on some very weak quarterback play. But I don't think that's necessarily the case here. Caleb Williams may not be great, but I think it's kind of a different category than the JJ McCarthy's of the world. And then the third part is, like, this is a Bears defense that has gotten a lot healthier. And again, you want to talk about, this is kind of the name of the game, I feel like, in at this part of the season, where you have to balance, like, how much do I believe in the full sample size? How much do I believe in kind of the smaller, what I've seen recently, as teams get healthier, as teams, lose players to injuries, as teams kind of develop within their schemes. That's part of what makes football so incredible, is the complexity built within. But this is all to say, this is a Chicago defense that, like, I don't care what they were doing in week 3, because this is an entirely different unit. I mean, like, getting Jalen Johnson back is huge. They've got like Kevin Byard playing some of the best football. It looks like their linebackers are finally going to be healthy. I anticipate TJ Edwards coming back in this one. Like, this is just a totally different Bears defense. And yes, like, we saw kind of Jordan Love's ceiling game. He's great. 7 points is just too much for, number one, a Packers defense that I think is very overrated, and number two, a Bears offense that has such a high degree of kind of built-in floor success from their ground game right now.
Okay, so that's +7, 189. Before we get to Brad, you also like it on the money line, 355, Judah. Just for listeners, so how would you split that yourself? Is it same stake on each bet, or are you looking for roughly the same returns off each bet if you're doing both these bets?
Yeah, I mean, like, it always depends on the time that you're betting and where you think the number has more value. I like +7 here a bit more than I do the money line, just because I think, again, when I make a case for a team that has, like, a high floor of success, what I'm really trying to say there is I think it's going to be, like, a very close game, and there's obviously a lot more that kind of needs to go right on the Bears side to actually win, given where the market's settling. But yeah, like, there's value on +7, there's value on the money line to me both. They're both going to be bets on playing, and it's kind of up to external factors, so to speak, of how much you can get down, what are the prices, to actually figure out kind of the risk profile of the actual bet.
Okay, well laid out there, Brad. For you, it's +7. It's your best bet on the card.
Yeah, not loads to add. I mean, we basically got to the exact same reasoning, I would say, entirely separately, which is nice. I would say I'm fairly, like, I bet this at +6. I bet this at +6.5, and I've had to bet this more +7. Like, I think this is a bad line. Like,
well, just on that, Brad. So when the market's moving against you, do you have to, like, keep double checking yourself? Why it's moving, and then happy with that reason to keep going, putting money down?
Yeah, and I think you change, like, I bet Monday morning when I just sort of make my own lines in my head, then look at the lines and just bet off that. And then obviously by Tuesday and Wednesday, you've got some more numbers to look at. I might check some smart people's models. You get injury news, you get weather news. So, like, you're constantly updating your number. Well, why is this moving? I can only think one is, like, the narrative about the Bears is, like, the point differential is bad. That the Packers kind of put it all together. They look good. Maybe the weather, it's going to be like freezing. But I mean, the Bears play outdoors in Chicago. It's not going to be that different for them. And they're the better running team, as Judah says. So I don't know why. And then maybe the other reason is that they literally went off +7 at Philadelphia. So Eagles, Packers, roughly similar. So you have to make them +7 here. But that kind of discounts what we saw last week, where so the Eagles came in with the third lowest rushing EPA allowed, the third best run defense in the league. They got Jalen Carter, they got Jalen Phillips, got Jordan Davis, they got strong defensive lines who've just gone over, and they just got utterly mauled for 281 yards, 47 attempts for 281 yards. And it wasn't like fluky, it was just like 5 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, 8 yards. Like, they just mashed them. So as Judah says, like, that's such a unbelievable floor. Like, running is the most consistent thing. You don't have to put the ball in the air. You can just run that over and over and over again. And the Packers, they're down Lucas Van Ness, they're down Devontae Wyatt in the defensive line. Like, it's going to be like -10. So you're just getting hammered for 4 quarters. It could be bad, yeah. And then healthier in the secondary, Jalen Johnson, Carter Gordon, TJ Edwards at linebacker. Like, so the unpredictable, which tells you how the market is ranking these teams. It says the Bears, using this line essentially, is that the Bears are the 18th best team in the NFL, the same as the Cincinnati Bengals. In what world is that? Is that even vaguely accurate? And then they got the 24th ranked defense, again, according to the market, which maybe for the balance of the season so far, yes, but they've been missing the 2 starting corners for the entire year and like 3 linebackers. So I just think this is really wrong, and I like it a lot.
Okay, yeah, and as I said, rare agreements. I'm trying my best to come up with scenarios with the Packers, but the guys have laid it out well. They're happy to take the points, both of them +7 at around 189. Judah, final word to you. A best bet coming on Thursday Night Football. We have this thing in the Premier League. I don't know how much you cover it, where you don't put your best bet as the early kickoff. You're going for the early kickoff in NFL Thursday Night Football, albeit you did have success last week, which I think you went 4-0 in your Thanksgiving Friday picks, or most of them anyway.
Yeah, no, I like the spot a little too much not to have it as
yeah, couldn't resist.
The best bet. And, if we're going to record on Thursday and not Friday,
yeah,
you need some benefit there. This is a Cowboys offense that, by like any metric has been one of the best, if not the best offense in football. That has absolutely dominated man coverage, dominated single coverage. That's what the Lions play a ton of. They just do not have the personnel to guard CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens right now. And then kind of exactly to the point of teams change as the season evolves. The Dallas Cowboys defense of week 6 is not the Dallas Cowboys defense of week 14. Quinnen Williams has gone from a player who was generating like somewhere between a 5 to 9% pressure rate with the Jets, and some of that has to do with better situation, to a 20% pressure rate with the Cowboys. They're stopping the run at a league best clip since he's come. The defensive line has been terrific. You get Malik Hooker back a couple weeks ago. You get Donovan Wilson back a couple weeks ago. Their safeties. You actually have a formidable defense that's been pretty good. And then on the Lions side, I don't know about Amon-Ra St. Brown. If especially, I think he's probably out. And this is a Lions offense that really doesn't have any secondary weapons. Isaac Tessalon has made some great catches, but if you're relying on Tom Kennedy for your major conversions, that's a real problem. And the interior line of the Lions is absolutely decimated right now, which is exactly the strength of the Cowboys defensive line. I think this is a spot where the market is, again, you look at the full season's data, the line makes sense. You look at where these teams are right now, and I would have a very, very hard time kind of getting to the Lions -3 that the market's currently implying.
Okay, and money line's the way you want to go with it.
Yeah, I think this is as close to as off market as I'm going to get. I think the Cowboys might be, better to be favored here.
Little tick drift there as we were talking. So 252 is what we're going to lock in on Matchbook. Brad, final word to you. This might sound like an obvious thing to say, but is that how we get value in the market? And you made a case a few minutes ago, and Judah just made it there, of the market perhaps using defensive stats for the whole season rather than maybe the 5 or 6 weeks that are relevant, given this is the personnel that are available, for example.
Definitely, yeah. I bet Cowboys as well tonight. So again, we're in lockstep here. And Lions team total under. There's 29.5 -110 about. And yeah, they've got no weapons and they've got no interior offensive line. So I like that one. It's the market. The market nowadays is, as we all know, is driven by algorithms. And where are the algorithms wrong? I think it's when the quarterback has a bad hand. And Judah said it. How do you quantify that? I think there's some, you can, if you've seen enough games or watched for enough years, or that quarterback, you can have a better idea than the models, because they don't really know. It's just quite hard to, I think, update to how good this Cowboys defense is now, because a model is going to look at one game against the Raiders and go no, or it might update it 1/15 of or whatever there. But you can say this is dramatically different. This was the worst defense, and now it's a top 12 unit or whatever. So it's making adjustments. Why is the model wrong? Why is this team different? And I guess being aggressive where you think those differences are, and especially after the trade deadline or offensive line cluster injuries, you always want to be looking at. So, but trying to work out what team is on the field here.
Okay, hopefully most people got to listen to that before Thursday Night Football, we hope. Well, maybe it's the opposite way around and people dodge a bullet on Friday morning. That's the the great game, as we said. My thanks to Judah and Brad, insights.matchbook.com. We do see a lot of you guys heading over there before Sunday. Do check it out. Well worth it. It's a good round of all the guys' picks and has all the podcast links or YouTube links to watch back as well. But my thanks to Brad and Judah. We're getting very close to the playoffs. It is definitely the countdown. The playoff picture is going to take shape over the next few weeks. Very much looking forward to Red Zone each and every one of those Sundays up until Christmas. But we'll chat to you next week. Enjoy the football. Bye-bye.